Imagine, if after death you get reincarnated into another world but the god accidentally made you the strongest being, what would you do? Haruto is a bullied boy who had withdrawn from the world and had spent 5 years secluded in his room to escape the bullying. However, while watching porn, watching his phone late at night, a bright light shines and he sees a goddess in front of him, leading him to realize that he passed away jerking the chicken. She mentions that she has given him cheat powers to have an easy life. Haruto, who just wants a simple otaku life and likes lazing around, is excited about his reincarnation. After that, he was reborn in another world as a baby prince, bearing the royal sign on his body. The king, excited about his son's potential power, orders a magic test to measure his abilities. The king and his wife, also known as the Princess of Light, have even defeated the Demon King. So, he expects his son to be at least level 40 or 50, but soon everyone is disappointed to find out that he only has a power level of 2 and no attributes. Also, he can only use barrier magic. The king wonders how he could birth such a powerless child and wished he used some protection at that time. Fearing the judgment of others, the world's best parents decide to claim that their child died at birth in order to throw him away in a distant forest. Meanwhile, in the heavenly dimension, Goddess mentions her mistake to another goddess and tells her she accidentally set his level to 1002 while the limit of the magic measuring tool of this world is 2 digits. Helpless and alone, Haruto finds himself in the forest as a defenseless infant. Remembering his ability to create barrier magic, Haruto conjures a cube as a protective barrier. He experiments with its size and shape, using it to levitate himself. However, his solitude is interrupted by the appearance of a large wolf. Panicking, Haruto defends himself and casts hundreds of small cubes to defeat the beast, but they prove ineffective. So, he lifts trees with his barriers and throws them at the wolf. But the wolf still stands up, so he prepares to crush it with a hill, but suddenly a voice offers to surrender. Confused about the voice's source, Haruto proceeds with his attack. Once again, the voice interjects, and to his surprise, it was coming from the wolf, so he stops. Using his barriers to translate his thoughts into words, Haruto communicates with the wolf and explains how he was thrown away. Intrigued by his strength, the wolf wonders if Haruto is the reincarnation of the Demon King and he plays along. The wolf mentions that it's from a Flame Fenrir clan and offers to kill her. But Haruto didn't want to harm her and he starts leaving after calling her Flay. She acknowledges him as his master and promises to devote her life to him. Suddenly, Haruto's energy depletes, and he collapses to the ground, desperately needing nourishment. Flay transforms into a hot fox girl with giant assets, and Haruto asks her to put on some clothes, but she looks even more hotter than before. Haruto asks to feed him, but Flay takes off all her clothes and mentions that she cannot produce milk as she has not made it. She asks his master to penetrate her glory wall with his Excalibur, but it would still take him years before he can actually use it. As they ponder their predicament, someone approaches their location. Haruto suggests communicating with the person before taking any action. Using his barriers, he establishes a telepathic link between himself and Flay. When the man arrives, Flay confronts him to determine his intentions. The man claims to be a relative and expresses his desire to rescue Haruto, and even brought him milk. The man shares a heartfelt story about his wife's miscarriage, expressing his desire to take him in. Moved by his words, Flay is brought to tears and agrees to go with him. He also leaves behind false evidence of Haruto's death. Haruto begged Flay to get the milk, but she insisted that the only milk that he will be drinking is from her assets. Fast forward 9 years, Haruto has grown up under the care of Margrave Gold, living happily with his new family, and Flay serves as their maid. Initially, he planned to leave, but due to the kindness and comfort they provided, he ended up staying. Although his relationship with his sister Charlotte is somewhat tense. His mother tells him that Charles doesn't know how to approach boys of her age, and he thinks that Charles might have sensed his true age, making her resent him. Haruto's mother encourages him to venture outside more, reminding him of his responsibilities as their heir. However, Haruto considers leaving with Flay but knows it would upset them. He has created a duplicate of himself as a substitute, but it remains motionless and voiceless. I'm looking forward to his future doll collection, as it looks like he might be able to create a harem with his own hands. His father insists on teaching him swordsmanship, and Haruto reluctantly agrees. Surprisingly, Haruto displays extraordinary abilities during their training session. His father is puzzled as he dodges his attacks easily, which should have been impossible for someone with a power level of 2. Haruto questions his power level, which remains at 2, despite his true strength, and the highest ever recorded was 77. He thinks it might be because of the blessing from the goddess with huge assets. Later that evening, Haruto's father confides in his wife about his suspicions that Haruto may be a demi-demon, and Charlotte overhears their conversation in shock. Afterwards, we see that Haruto is relieved that he can continue to be a slacker as his father Gold stopped giving him sword lessons due to his busy schedule. Suddenly he hears a commotion outside, and using his magic, he investigates and witnesses injured soldiers. Joining Gold, they assess the situation, revealing persistent thieves attacking their lands. They received intelligence about their hideout and launched a counterattack but fall victim to a surprise ambush. Gold blames himself for the situation, and asks Haruto to return home, deeming the scene unsuitable for a young child. As Haruto walks away in frustration, Flay accompanies him, insulting the soldiers. He asks the foxy bimbo to shut up and continues, secretly casting healing spells to restore the wounded soldiers to perfect health. Gold is also surprised about this. At night his sleep is interrupted when he senses Flay outside and realizes that she took his command literally. He grants her permission to speak, and she offers an apology, but the dumb bimbo still doesn't know why he was mad. Haruto uses his magic to locate the thieves' hideout, realizing they have a spy among them. Determined, he vows to kill them all. Activating his magic, he and Flay soar through the sky, catching the attention of Char, who was still awake. Meanwhile, while the celebrating bandits plan their next attack and mock Gold, Haruto and Flay abruptly burst into the room. The bandits try to get into their fighting stance, but Haruto casts a barrier to freeze their movements and tosses Bucky Beaver against the wall using his magic. He wants to interrogate them and warns them that any lies will result in their death. Interrogation reveals that they are soldiers from a neighboring empire, who are sent to cause internal conflicts. The revelation of an unidentified collaborator within their kingdom shocks them. Haruto realizes that his father's life is in danger. He thanks the bandits before instructing Flay to burn the fort and kill them all. Seems like the bandits received a scorching send-off, and we've got ourselves an MC with questionable morals. As they leave, he decides to send an anonymous letter to his father, providing a detailed account of the events. Gold receives the letter and report but remains puzzled about the enemy's infiltration. Wanting answers, he orders an investigation. When Char inquires about the individuals who dealt with the criminals, Gold suspects Flay, as she is the only one who can control fire to that level, plus her efficiency and lack of compassion are clear marks, but he chooses not to disclose the truth. Char's curiosity about Haruto's actions grows even more as she recalls witnessing him and Flay flying away. So, she asks Flay if there are two of him, as when she visited his room after their departure she saw him sleeping on the bed but it wasn't his regular scary aura. The foxy bimbo unintentionally reveals that Haruto possesses immeasurable power, far surpassing humans or demons. After learning that Char had discovered his clone, Haruto decides to monitor her activities using surveillance barriers. Char continues to follow and spy on Haruto relentlessly, and the dedicated little detective doesn't spare him, even when he's taking a bath. However, he acts like an ordinary child to avoid raising her suspicions. Following a week of stalking, Haruto learns that she along with his mother, Natalia is going to an upcoming annual festival. He suggests bringing along Flay but realizes that she is busy with keeping the local monsters in check following his command. While he is resting in his room, his surveillance alarm alerts him, indicating trouble. Empire soldiers have trapped Natalia and Char during their journey, and their own soldiers struggle to defend them. Natalia tries to defend the soldiers' attack but gets hurt in the process. Suddenly, a small cube beside Char appears, guiding them to escape. They reach a cliff, and Natalia uses her magic to descend. Although her mana is low, they manage to make it. They are then guided to a cave. She tells Char that the hero of justice has guided her and will come to help her, and asks her to stay there so that she can go and get them. When she comes out, the cave gets covered by an illusion magic. Looks like there was no reason for her to come out, but now it's too late as the soldiers have spotted her. In order to avoid capture, she decides to end her own life, but just then the dagger shatters and she is knocked out by stun magic. With his magical powers, Haruto rescues Natalia and defeats the Empire soldiers in seconds. He carries Natalia back to the cave and alters his voice to remain unidentified by Char, and asks her to take care of the unconscious mother. Char, sensing a scary aura, calls him by his name, and the dumbass turns around. Well, it seems keeping a secret identity is overrated. Char questions if he is a hero of justice, and Haruto decides to play along. Back home, Haruto's father receives an anonymous letter about their safety, raising his curiosity about the mysterious hero. As Char and Natalia finally return home, Char surprises Haruto by embracing him, and their parents are shocked, wondering when did they ever get so close, and Flay is jealous as Haruto's harem begins. Char is now obsessed with Haru and privacy isn't in her vocabulary. She always barges in and insists on playing together, and Haru finds it challenging to handle her overwhelming affection. Curious about his activities, Char discovers his surveillance magic, leaving her impressed. He believes it's a lost magic, but surprisingly, she tells him it's not lost and guides him to the castle library. Haru learns that his barrier magic is related to ancient magic, and never expected Char to have such knowledge, assuming the books were too complex for her. However, she reveals to him that her mother and Flay helped her to understand it, and now she wants Haru to read it to her. Sitting on his lap, they explore stories of gods traversing worlds, resembling an anime plot, and Haru wishes that he could watch anime in this world. Char doesn't know what he is talking about, but he tells her that she wouldn't understand. However, she insists on him explaining it to her. After knowing more about anime, Char expresses her desire to watch. So, Haru resolves to make Char join the Otaku club and gets to work. After 2 weeks, he managed to get a modern Japanese internet connection through his magic, and his streaming subscription was still active, which he can access, because he is the MC. He creates a kid's profile for Char and allows her to choose an anime show. Despite her inability to understand the Japanese language, she is still amazed by the animated drawings come to life. Haru thinks it would be hard for her to learn a new language, but he is shocked as she manages to learn it in 2 hours. 2 weeks pass, and we see Char barging in, eager to watch the latest episode of her favorite anime. As she becomes engrossed in the anime, Haru wonders if she is a genius, as she mastered Japanese just by watching anime. However, as her big bro, he feels the need to set boundaries so that she doesn't get spoiled, and limits her viewing time to 3 hours a day. During dinner, Char struggles to stay awake, and her father Gold wonders what she has been up to, but she tells him that they are studying ancient magic. Char follows Haru around, but to her dismay, he tells her she can't watch any more anime and asks her to take a bath and go to sleep. Surprisingly, Char joins Haru in the bath and suddenly starts staring at him and asks about the weird thing on his body. I meant the emblem on his chest. She identifies it as his proof of being an ally of justice, while Haru insists on keeping this a secret, telling her that heroes of justice need to hide their identities. They bid each other good night, but Char ends up sleeping next to Haru, much to their mother's delight, while Haru wishes for his personal space. The next day, Gold leaves for a mission to catch a group of thieves, leaving Char worried for his safety. She is depressed, but Haru assures her that their father will be fine. Char asks Haru to use his powers to fight the bad guys and insists he transforms like in the anime. Reluctantly, Haru agrees and transforms into a cheap version of Zero. Char wishes to go with him, but since it's too dangerous for her to accompany him, he sets up a magical live stream to witness his heroic acts before setting off. Haru locates the thieves in a cave and uses his barrier magic to trap them inside. While typically this should be enough, Haru decides to put on a show since Char is watching. He arrives at the scene, presenting himself as an ally of justice. Despite their attempt to rush him, Haru effortlessly defeats them, deliberately holding back since Char is watching. Just then, Gold arrives, wondering who he is. Haru, who couldn't come up with a cool name, makes up a random name, which meant still pending. Gold wonders about his true purpose and he simply states he is an ally of justice and quickly retreats, feeling embarrassed by the situation. However, Char finds him exceptionally cool and expresses her desire to witness more of his cringe, much to his disbelief. So, he kept going to battles and eventually became known as the Black Knight. Well, at least they didn't name him Zero. Over time, Haru manages to perfect his clone, thanks to the knowledge he gained from the library books. While the clone gains the ability to speak, it mirrors Haru's laziness and personality. As they say, double the laziness, double the fun. Char wakes up in Haru's bed and is shocked to see two Harus. Suddenly, they are interrupted to join a meeting, and Haru asks his clone to take his place. However, the clone refuses, leading Haru to realize that he won't find a replacement for his laziness. Their family welcomes royal guests, Prince Laius and Princess Marianne, and Haru wonders if they are his real siblings. Laius behaves like a typical D-bag. Although Marianne attempts to control him, he shuts her down, highlighting their differences as he is the next heir to the throne. While Haru is surprised by his behavior, Laius calls him out for staring at him and challenges him to a fight, underestimating his level. Haru measures his power using his assessment magic and learns that his level is 9 and his sister is at level 14, while Gold is at 32. Laius charges at Haru, but Haru evades effortlessly, frustrating Laius. He asks Haru not to run away, so he casts a barrier to shield himself and allows Laius to beat him up. Laius continues to relentlessly attack him and asks him to fight back, and Haru decides to show off his abilities by easily overpowering him. Laius then starts attacking him using his fire spell but gets easily absorbed by Haru's barrier, and when Haru tries to throw it back, Laius admits defeat. Marianne apologizes for her brother's behavior and is astonished by his abilities. As Haru returns to his room, he wonders if this will attract the attention of his real parents. Char has been actively patrolling lately, which has been quite a trouble for Haru, as it increases his workload, and interferes with his jerking schedule. The dumb bimbo finally returns and wants to help, but Haru worries she'll cause trouble. He confirms that Flay has completed her other tasks, and she excitedly proposes teaming up. Char is excited about her being Haru's sidekick, and Haru reluctantly agrees, but warns Flay not to use excessive violence as Char is watching. They encounter a group of thieves, and Haru introduces himself as the Black Knight, which stands for cheap version of Zero, and Flay introduces her as the Red Knight in black costume. Flay is ready to attack, and it looks like she's out for blood, disregarding Haru's commands. Haru casts a barrier to save them, and Flay is surprised that it didn't work. As she's about to unleash her ultimate move, Haru knocks some sense into the dumb bimbo, and asks her to head back while he handles the rest. The dumb bimbo still doesn't know why her attack failed, and considers to use more power next time. Haru is exhausted and doesn't want to do it again, but seeing how happy it made Char, he decides to do it with Flay again. I meant the teaming up. Meanwhile, we see Laius, who's still upset about his defeat and wonders how Haru defeated him, despite his lower level. His minister arrives, reminding him to prepare for the dinner party, and suggests inviting Char to join them as his partner for the ride. Laius initially dismisses the idea, but he insists that it's for his sake and he reluctantly agrees. After the dinner party, Char arrives with his clone carrying his dinner. The clone tells him about the miserable experience he had. His clone is miserable being his double, and jumps into bed. Char mentions that she has to join the inspection tomorrow as the prince has invited her, and Haru wonders if he has a lolicon, which is ironic coming from a guy who bathed with her. Seeing his clone exhausted, Haru decides to take Char on the tour instead. Later that night, Haru checks the tour route for Char's safety. He sees a suspicious group summoning something, so he decides to investigate. The men are shocked to see him and attack with spells, but Haru effortlessly defeats them. A magic circle activates, conjuring creepy skeletons. Haru battles them, but they keep rising until he notices crystals on their chests. He turns the skeletons against their own. The leader summons a huge golem, which knocks him into a tree, and he mentions he underestimated its power, but he spots another crystal and attacks it, making the golem fight on his side. Their leader wonders what happened, and he explains that he accidentally controlled it while trying to restrict its movement, and apologized to them, and I'm not sure if he really meant it or was being sarcastic. After that, he captures the men and interrogates the leader, threatening to bury them all, and plot twist. It's revealed that all the attacks were planned by the queen, his biological mother, to assassinate Char because she fears Char will surpass her. Well, now we know where our MC inherited his dark side from. Haru grows furious, and determined to protect those he loves, he vows to challenge the queen, even if she's his real mother. The next day, we see Flay on top of the ride. Char tries to cheer up Laius about his defeat against his brother, but ends up adding insult to his injury by mentioning that he should be proud to score a hit against him, when he never stood a chance at all. Laius asks him how he did it, and he just tells him that he can use enhancement magic just by thinking about becoming strong, shocking Laius and Marianne. They wonder if he is a demi-demon, and Char explains to him that when human and demon get married their children are known as demi-demon. I like how naive Char is, who thinks it's required to be married to have children. Marianne thinks it makes sense, but notes he looks like a normal boy, and Char vouches for him, telling that he has smooth and clean body as she has bathed with him, causing both Laius and Marianne to be embarrassed. As they wonder how perverted Haru is, Char asks if that's not allowed. Marianne tries to explain the deeper meaning of bathing together, but she becomes brain dead just thinking about it. They arrive at a wheat field, and Haru chats with his father. As an example, he asks him what would he do if the queen targets Charlotte's life. His father is surprised and reveals that he got a letter from the Black Knight which mentioned he defeated the queen's wizard. He acknowledges the real threat, and Haru mentions that she should disappear, but his father points out the chaos it would cause, as she was the one who beheaded the Demon King, and is considered a hero. He believes Char will grow stronger, and has the potential to be the queen and suggests Haru looks out for her until then. Flay offers to take out the queen, but Haru declines, considering it personal. He believes the queen will try again soon, so he decides it time to give his real mother a visit. Back at the Emperor's palace, the queen, Giselot, questions her men's excuse for their failed plan to kill Charlotte. They reveal that a mysterious man known as the Black Knight, who is actually Haru, is defending Gold's family, and also defeated the summoned mages. Giselot is frustrated with her men's failures and even throws wine at one of them. She mentions that she wants to kill Charlotte because she sees her as a future threat to her position. Giselot decides to confront the Black Knight alone and kill him using her holy sword. Just then Haru arrives, and he easily defeats her men using his barrier magic. She wonders how he managed to get in as she has set up barriers, but he mentions that he broke them easily. She attacks him with her magic and traps him in a water bubble, but he easily escapes it. She then attacks him again using ice crystals and fire magic. However, Haru is unharmed and attacks her with his own magic. She barely blocks it and Haru continues to overwhelm her with his powerful attacks. Her mana continues to deplete as she tries to protect herself, and she wonders if he is stronger than Demon Lord. She goes on to attack him with her holy sword, mentioning that she is the strongest in the world and no one can beat her, but Haru is not impressed and defeats her easily. After that, he punishes her by binding her with a slave collar and tells her if she tries to remove it forcefully, her head will be severed. He asks her to stay away from Gold's family and their state affairs. He tells her that only he can remove the slave collar, so she should behave if she wants to be free. Leaving Giselot in despair, the Black Knight bids his goodbye and leaves. Overwhelmed with mixed emotions, Giselot laughs and cries, feeling like a slave in her own domain, wondering how everything went wrong. As Haru leaves with Flay, she asks why he went so easy on her, and he tells her that he won't be so forgiving next time if she does something again, and the sadist bimbo is excited about it. 5 years pass, and it's wintertime. Ever since Haru had warned Giselot, there has been no incident. Haru feels the chill and boredom, but Char and Flay enjoy the season. Char builds a food badge, while Flay builds an amazing snow castle, shocking Haru. While checking out Flay's huge assets, he wonders if she's not feeling cold. Flay pretends she's fine, but she's actually shivering. Haru uses magic to transform them into warm winter clothes, and Flay feels relieved and thanks him. Char then asks Haru to perform a special move that she is unable to do, and he agrees, while Flay wonders if he has a Siscon. Based on Char's instruction, he performs the special move and creates a hole in the ground. Char is happy to see it, but just then their parents arrive and notice the hole. To avoid suspicion, he quickly conjures a fake Black Knight clone, pretending he was responsible for the damage while showing them a special move. Char agrees with him, so Gold lets it off and they continue to have fun. After some time, Gold chats with Haru and mentions that everything is peaceful as Giselot is no longer after Char, and rumors say she wears a slave collar, staying inside her palace. Gold reveals Haru will attend the Magic Academy in the capital after winter, but Haru resists, not wanting to face school horrors. He gets depressed, as this may be the end of his otaku life. Later Haru tries to talk it out with Gold so that he can avoid going to the academy. Gold mentions that the king himself has recommended him and he can't do anything about it. Gold assumes that Princess Marianne has taken a liking to him, but Haru suspects Giselot's involvement. Reluctantly he agrees to go, and Gold suggests that he needs to find a caretaker. Haru doesn't want Flay as she is troublesome. Natalia offers, but they refuse, finding it awkward. He decides to think about it later as they still have 3 months' time. After that, Haru, being the ultimate slacker he is, decides to skip going to the academy by planning to send his clone, who refuses. Haru mentions that if his power got exposed it would become a problem with their otaku life, so he plans to use the magicless clone as a scapegoat, and promises to put an enchantment magic for protection. Haru also mentions that he can always create new clones, and reluctantly the poor clone has no choice but to accept. After winter ends, we see Haru resting in his lakeside cottage which he built over 5 years that he can use to shut himself in, and play with his thing to his heart's content, I meant the video game. However, his peace is interrupted when Char and Flay join him. While Flay is here to clean, Char is there to watch anime. She shares her struggle with limited anime time due to her studies, and she's not allowed to visit his room since she's now a lady. To help her, Haru decides to try out teleportation magic, so that she can visit him. He tries first with a ball and it works. Now for a real person test, he asks his clone to go through the teleportation gate, but he refuses to be his guinea pig and mocks Haru for being afraid to test it himself. Flay gets annoyed by this, and she goes to the other side and throws the clone back. Haru then creates a teleportation gate to the castle, and as they leave he remembers that he still needs to find a caretaker. The story continues with Haru being a lazy ass as usual, and enjoying playing video games in his lakeside cabin. Char is also there watching her favorite anime shows, and Flay is doing the cleaning. Suddenly he remembers that he needs to find an attendant, and leaves, making Char and Flay suspicious, as he has not told them about going to academy in 3 months and finding an attendant. As he walks through the forest he notices that the skeleton's followers he made 5 years ago have settled in quite well with the land he gave them. Their commander, Johnny, welcomes him, and he gives him a tour of other places. He learns that they have started taking in stray monsters brought by Flay. The skeletons have also started farming, and grown crops to feed the monsters living there, and they plan to take in more monsters. Haru is amazed by this, and he thinks if he can add some skin to Johnny he can make a good attendant. But there's a problem, he's a chatterbox, so he drops the idea. He praises him for his work, and moves on. He sits near a lake to relax, and wonders how the place which he intended to spend time alone, became a monster paradise. Just then he's joined by the golem, Gigan. He's surprised to know that it's a girl, and she wants to be part of his harem. Although Haru thinks that she would make a good attendant, but because of her size it's not possible. He returns back to his cabin, and sees Flay being suspicious about him. He recalls his father's advice to not select Flay, and tells her to mind her own business, making her sad. The following day Char comes up with a new superhero name for him, and instead of Black Knight she suggests the name, Shiva, which refers to a supreme deity that controls destruction and creation, and Haru feels sorry for turning her like this. After that, Flay introduces Char to the chatterbox, and he explains about the place. Char, being the naming master, decides to name the place as Pandemonium, impressing Johnny. After that, we see a blizzard dragon being attacked by some adventurers who are trying to hunt it down for money. It tries to escape but it's injured, and causes an avalanche. The dragon gets hit by the avalanche, and gets knocked out. Later, Gold informs Haru about the appearance of a dragon near their empire border. Gold is concerned as it might endanger civilian life if it goes on a rampage, so he asks Flay's help to check the situation since she's a demon, but she refuses. She mentions only her master can order her, so Haru orders her but she's still reluctant. She tells him that she has never heard of a blue dragon, which means it didn't participate in their great war against humans, so she doesn't want to protect such a cowardly dragon. Char overhears their conversation, and requests Flay to protect the dragon from adventurers, and eventually she agrees. They find the dragon in a worn-out state with adventurers approaching to hunt it. As the adventurers try to attack it, Haru and Flay show up. Haru starts healing the dragon, and Flay, being the dumb bimbo she is, tries to kill all the adventurers with her flame. Luckily Haru uses his barrier magic, so they're just knocked out. Haru introduces himself to the dragon, but it attacks him with its blizzard power and freezes him. Haru is pissed, and yells at the dragon for its betrayal of getting saved by him. Suddenly, he hears the dragon's voice, and tries to talk with it, but it totally ignores him and asks Flay why she is following him being a demon. Flay explains to her about Haru being the Demon King reincarnation. We then learn that the dragon was an ultimate shut-in on a whole other level, as it was living in a hold-up life for 300 years. Haru is impressed by this, and demands to learn more. The dragon tells its story about spending all its days curled up inside a cave. One day an adventurer stopped by and left a book behind. The dragon started reading it and got addicted, so kept reading it again, and desired to read more. Eventually, it ventured into town disguised in human form, and found more books. From then on, she visited human villages to bring back books, gaining knowledge. However, adventurers discovered her, and burned down her place along with the books, but it escaped. Flay is moved by its story and accepts the dragon as one of her comrades, permitting her entry into Pandemonium. Haru wonders what that is, and Flay explains it's the name Char gave to the skeleton village. The dragon then declares Haru as its master, and as it begins to transform, Haru realizes what happened with Flay and instantly dresses her up, preventing plot scenes for the viewers. The dragon transforms into a cute girl, and Flay is worried about her spot in his harem. Haru takes off his mask and introduces him. He learns that she doesn't have a name, so he names her Liza. He asks her to follow him home, and is surprised to see that she can fly in her human form. Flay decides not to be outdone by her, and follows them on foot. The story continues, and we see Haru introducing his new harem member to his family. He wants his family to accept Liza as their maid. His mom and sister think she is cute, and Gold wonders as to how he managed to tame a dragon, but doesn't care anymore. He's fine to let her work as long as she takes care of him as well. Later we see Flay teaching the job of maid to Liza, but it looks like the dumb bimbo is showing what not to do as a maid. Flay tries to show her how to clean, but she breaks the broom while Liza uses it perfectly. Flay then takes her to the kitchen where she breaks every plate which she tries to wash while Liza cleans it well. Flay also tries to show off her cooking skill, but she burns down the food, while Liza cooks a perfect dish, impressing the fellow maids. Even Gold and his family are also impressed by the food which Liza made. Haru's mom asks if Liza has any other skill, to which she tells her that she likes reading books and also knows magic. Hearing this, she makes Liza Char's personal maid, while Flay is sad that Liza is now becoming their favorite maid. The following day, Liza continues her duties as Char's personal maid and teaches her magic. She also assists Char with her studies, and they get along well. This routine continues, and one day, Haru notices that Char's magic has improved under Liza's guidance. He is impressed to see Liza multitasking. She is teaching Char magic while also doing the laundry. Char then asks Liza to be her friend, and they become friends. Haru realizes that Liza would make a perfect attendant, but he doesn't want to separate her from Char, as they just become friends. However, he devises a plan to utilize his magical teleportation door. With this door, he can temporarily take Liza away to fulfill her duties as his maid and then return her to Char using the magic door. So now that his attendant problem is solved, the lazy otaku just needs to devise a plan to drop out early from school. After some time, we see that Char is feeling down because she's finished watching her favorite anime show. However, Haru consoles her by mentioning that a new show will start airing next week. Just as Char is about to leave after her break, Haru drops a bombshell. He informs her that he will be attending school at the royal capital starting next week. This revelation shocks her. Seeing all those anime seems to have a serious effect on her, so she asks Liza to gather all the knights for a round table meeting, while Haru wonders whether he may have spoiled his little sister. Later on, we see Char meeting with Liza, Flay, Johnny, and Golem, who are the knights she referred to. Char informs them about Haru's plan to attend school, and they are shocked. Flay nearly slips up by accidentally referring to him as the Demon King, and Char is suspicious that they are keeping a secret from her. However, Johnny, being a smooth talker, quickly manages the situation. Char explains that while watching an anime featuring a school, she asked Haru about the nature of such places. Haru, being the bullied loser he was, told her that schools are terrifying and dangerous. Since Haru is willing to go to a place like that, Char interprets this as a sign that there must be an evil organization luring students towards a dark path, and Haru intends to go there and stop it. She plans to take Flay and Liza to the capital to gather information covertly, while Johnny and Golem will work on developing Pandemonium. She wants to act in secret without letting Haru worry about it. Later that night, Liza reports back to Haru, sharing everything she has discovered, and inquires about fighting the evil organization. Haru plays along, telling her that he has been operating in secret. He then asks her to accompany him as his personal attendant, and she agrees. Unbeknownst to Liza, Haru secretly hopes to utilize her as a means to unravel the mystery of the fake evil organization and drop out early from school. As the story continues, we see Haru saying his goodbyes to his family as he prepares to leave for the academy, with Liza accompanying him as his assistant. She's feeling a bit uncomfortable because he has made her horns and tail invisible. Flay is devastated that he's not taking her with him as his assistant and begs him to reconsider, but the lolly lover doesn't budge. Char consoles her and wishes Haru good luck. We then see Marianne barging into Laisa's room with a letter about Haru leaving for the capital, and it's revealed that he was the one who planned for Haru to join the academy because he wanted to see his true potential. Marianne tells him that losing to Haru has changed him, but he is still as cocky as ever. Laius tells her that he knows she was the one who forced the king to write a recommendation letter for Haru. She blushes and accidentally reveals that she likes him, and Haru has another member on his harem list. Laius then informs her that some cult is controlling the school, and Marianne tells him it's a new sect of the state religion called Luciferist, where they worship devils. It is revealed that they plan to overthrow the king, with many nobles already joining their cause, and there are rumors that their mother, Giselot, is funding them. Laius mentions that she changed due to what happened to her 5 years ago but never revealed who put the collar on her. He suspects that she is trying to take down his father, and Laius is afraid of her. Marianne believes that Haru may have the power to stop her since they haven't seen his full potential yet. Laius then mentions the Black Knight, who was seen on Gold's territory and rumored to have defeated a dragon. He considers asking him for help, but just then Giselot enters and greets her children. She then chokes Marianne, thinking she was looking at her collar. Laius pleads with her to stop, and she releases Marianne. She had overheard their conversation and asked Laius to get closer to Haru to gather more information on the Black Knight. She then leaves, and Laius thinks that he may have unintentionally dragged Haru into this mess. The scene then cuts to Char, reminding Haru that it's time to go to the academy. It's revealed that after he left home in his carriage, he came to his lake house. He has already set up a teleportation door in the forest near to the capital, so he was lazing around until the day to reach the capital came. Flay again begs Haru to take her, but Char consoles her, and tells Haru that she'll take care of it. Haru uses the teleportation door to reach near the capital, along with Liza. They notice a carriage being attacked by a monster bull, who got separated from the herd. The lazy hero first decides to do nothing, but then thinks that he may get in trouble if Char finds about it, so he changes to his Shiva form, and goes to rescue them. He uses his barrier magic to save a kid from falling off the carriage. He then sees a girl jumping in to fight the bull, and thinks she may be strong. So he plans to leave, and let her be the hero. But she gets severely injured, and just when the bull is about to finish her off, Haru jumps in, knocking down the bull. He then heals her, and fixes their carriage. He also puts on a cringy introduction about being the hero of justice, and the kid likes it. He decides to take the bull back to its herd as it did nothing to him. The girl is impressed by his thought of even caring for the monsters, and Haru may have another potential member for his harem. After that, Haru feeds the bull, and sends it on his way. Liza tells him that she felt a weird aura from the girl but doesn't know what it was. They then reach the academy, and see a long line of registration. Haru fills up the paperwork for registration, and seems like this task is more challenging for him than defeating monsters. He's exhausted by the end of the day, and goes back to the lake house using the teleportation door. He's hungry, and Flay is ready to prepare a special dish for her master, but Char wishes to go to the capital restaurant. She whispers something in Flay's ear, and convinces her. Haru then hides Flay's ear and tail, so that she's not recognized as a monster girl. They reach the capital, and enjoy their meal. We learn that Char's goal was to get more info on the evil cult, so after the meal, she asks Flay and Liza to survey the area to get the accurate layout of the town, while she will tour with Haru. She calls this a date, and Haku's heart skips a beat, as the lazy otaku never had this experience even in his past life. He then hangs out with her, buying her stuff, and feels happy. During their date, Char bumps into the same girl from the carriage incident. She tells Haru that she senses enormous power from him, but he tells her that his magic level is only 2, so she apologizes, and leaves. Char mentions that she sensed something strange from her, and Haru wonders that Liza also said the same thing. But he doesn't care, as starting tomorrow he plans to hole up and laze around until the ceremony. Afterward, Haruto's clone informs him about the upcoming proficiency test before the entrance ceremony, but the clone won't take the exam as it has been tough for him to be stuck in this room for the past few days. However, Haruto sees this as an opportunity to potentially get expelled from the academy by purposefully failing the exam. Haruto tries to sneak into the exam hall to avoid social interaction but is caught by a teacher who was expecting him, and takes him to the exam hall. The impressive classroom amazes him, but when he thinks about meeting his classmates, he is terrified, and the teacher wonders, why is he having a stroke? As Haruto receives his exam paper, he decides to answer every question incorrectly, but realizes that he actually has no clue about any of the questions, so his master plan is to write, "no clue," for all the answers. In the barrier magic section, he decides to answer some questions correctly to avoid suspicion and describes his barrier's capabilities. Haruto then attempts the ancient magic section, recalling his fondness for an author with a long name whose books he enjoyed. He gets carried away and writes detailed answers, then worries about writing too much. The teacher then calls him for the mana level assessment, but he tells them that his level is only 2, and they don't need to measure it. However, the school policy requires the assessment. The teacher, Polkos, escorts Haruto to a tiny professor named Tirieta Lusional. She takes an interest in Haruto's appearance but warns him that she'll send him back home if he gets on her bad side. Haruto gets excited hearing this, and she is turned on by his fearless behavior. She mentions that her chest will swell up due to the rising heartbeat because of Haruto, but Haruto doesn't see any plot development there, and wonders how long he will have to put up with her. Polkos hands her Haruto's answer sheet, and she has a serious expression on her face, and Haruto is hopeful that she didn't like his garbage answers. He then proceeds for his mana level assessment, and the crystal ball shatters to pieces, shocking everyone. Haruto thinks that she must be pissed as he broke her crystal, and hopes that she sends him home right away. But to his surprise, she is amazed, as she thinks that the crystal couldn't handle his power. She tells Polkos that the Mija crystal they used has its own logic, and they should research it further. The psycho teacher then tells him that she likes his courage by writing, "no clue," for the answers. She also loves his answers for the barrier section, and is even more impressed with how perfectly he copied her when answering the ancient magic potion. Haruto realizes that she was the author with the long name. She then decides to take Haruto under her wing, and Haruto learns that this was her plan all along. She asks him to join her research, but he rejects her right away and walks off. Haruto then shares what happened with his clone, and the clone can't believe that Haruto managed to make a good impression instead of getting expelled. Despite this setback, they remain determined. After that we see Char giving the clone Haruto a gun, and wishing him luck. The clone doesn't want to attend the entrance ceremony, but he has no choice, as being a clone he's bound to follow the original's orders. He explains that since he has no magic abilities, Haruto has casted a defensive barrier on him, and the gun serves as a means of self-defense. After the entrance ceremony concludes, the clone believes his day's events are over and immediately rushes back. On his way, he sees a group of students and aims to avoid getting in contact with them. Suddenly, one of the blonde guys asks him to stop, but he's relieved when he notices that he was referring to the white-haired girl in front of him. As the clone attempts to walk away, keeping his head down, he bumps into 2 giant cannons, and the girl seems to recognize him. Just then, the blondie asks why they didn't salute them, to which the girl mentions she didn't read anything about it in the academy handbook. The blondie introduces himself as Schneidel, the vice president, and demands her to bow down. The girl, new to the academy, expresses her ignorance, and Schneidel directs the clone to explain the situation to her, though the clone thinks about his own lack of knowledge. To evade the situation, the clone lies about a stomach ache and tells them he's about to shit his pants, but Schneidel thinks he's mocking him and fires a spell, striking the clone. However, the clone is unharmed due to Haruto's defensive spell, and everyone is shocked. The clone realizes that he should have pretended to be in pain and starts acting like he is in pain, but his act fails to deceive them. The girl then goes to the clone, and apologizes for involving him, but she still doesn't know the cause of Schneidel's anger, and the clone thinks she's even worse than him. Schneider gets even angrier and tries to use his ultimate spell to finish them off, but the clone fires his gun and runs away. Later the clone briefs Haruto about the events, and mentions that he was also chased around by that little professor. Haruto asks his clone to get rest, and wonders what's wrong with this school having a magic battle without any warning. A girl delivers a duel letter from Schneider to Haruto, who refuses to accept it. However, she emphasizes the potential damage to Margrave's reputation, and if he purposely loses, he will suffer even worse fate. Later, back in his room, Haruto reflects on the unfortunate turn of events. He thinks about a plan to intentionally lose the upcoming duel but is concerned about harming himself in the process. As he thinks about his situation, he notices the letter delivery girl escorting the white-haired girl in a carriage and wonders if they're heading to Schneider's house. The scene shifts to Schneider's mansion, where we learn that the white-haired girl has come to request him to call off the duel. She takes responsibility for the situation and tells him that Schneider is in no condition to fight due to his injuries. Schneider, however, demands an apology before considering her request. The girl apologizes, but Schneider remains unsatisfied and asks her to dance naked as a small price for his forgiveness. The girl agrees to this absurd demand, and Haruto is shocked. She begins undressing, and Haruto can't take this anymore. So, before she reveals the full plot, he uses his magic to turn off the lights. He appears before the girl as Shiva and gives back her dress. He scolds her for her actions, and asks her to have more self-respect. He then confronts Schneider, informing him that they are in a separate dimension. Haruto introduces himself as Shiva, the enforcer of justice, and places a vice block on Schneider's shoulder, accusing him of committing 3 sins. The first is picking a fight with a new student, the second is attempting to duel his junior, and the third is sexually harassing a girl. Haruto tells Schneider that the vice block is his punishment, and any attempt to remove it will only make it tighter. He asks that Schneider call off the duel, and he will remove the block once Schneider has atoned for his sins. The lights return, and the student's attempts to heal Schneider only cause him more pain. He screams in pain and tells them to stop, which makes some students laugh. Schneider is furious, and mentions that Shiva won't get away with this. This is where the video ends. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next part.